Gig Gab, episode 529 for Monday, April 13th, National Silly Earring Day 2026. I didn't wear my silly earrings. There you go. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians here in Durham, New Hampshire. As usual, I'm Dave Hamilton, and today my guest co-hosts are a married country duo who met the way the best duos could, on stage. She grew up on a 250-acre I sound like I'm doing the dating game. In Magnet Cove, Arkansas, got a math degree, became an engineer, and then one day decided she'd rather be behind the piano than behind a desk. He is a multi-talented instrumentalist from Mount View, Arkansas, who's been playing fiddle since he could hold one and went to work on Nashville's Music Row. They found each other at a piano bar in Little Rock in 2016, if I have my math right, and since then have won Arkansas Entertainer of the Year, co-founded the Yadaloo Music and Arts Festival, launched the Entertainers Academy, and they're out there doing 200-plus shows a year all over the world. Cliff and Susan Prowse, welcome to Gig Gab.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got it all right. There was one small thing. Cliff grew up in North Little Rock, but used to go all the time to Mountain View. So, yeah, but he had a lot of his musical roots in Mountain View, Arkansas growing up.
Got it. All right. Well, I did my best
here.
A
lot to keep up with.
I think a lot of people make that mistake some reason. But, I just spent a lot of summers there, just playing on the square in Mountain View, Arkansas. It's a really cool bluegrass community. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
But thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. I think it's fascinating and impressive, everything that you've both done individually and together, and the career that you've created, the career and the life that you've created for yourself.
We're happy to share all of it. We're an open book and love to, just tell our story, and especially your audience. We love to work with musicians and, rise together. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting as I started kind of putting this together. I do 3 podcasts, and one of them is a show called Business Brain for entrepreneurs. And on that show, we talk a lot about lifestyle businesses. Now, in the entrepreneurship community, lifestyle businesses either get high praise or a lot of shade. I am someone who thinks that the lifestyle business is a wonderful thing. And you have built the ultimate lifestyle business. So I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
There's nothing better than waking up, being able to do what we love for a living with the person we love. And, we've got our studio that you're seeing us in right here that we record in and uses our artistic space. And then, we do a lot of shows together. So I'd say we've really grown into something really, really awesome.
I think it's fantastic. Now, you came to this from like a desk job, Susan, right? You have a degree in pure mathematics. Is that right?
Oh, yes. I went to University of Central Arkansas, and I was pre-medicine. In my senior year, I was like, I didn't feel necessarily called to be a doctor my senior year. It was kind of like a soul searching moment for me. And I love physics. I love mathematics, the calculuses, and all of the different higher mathematics. So I finished with pure mathematics degree and a minor in physics. And at that point in time, I had a friend working at Outtro Telecom, which was a radio frequency engineering position that I took right out of college. And great experience. I loved working in corporate world for understanding how the real world works in the business, corporate atmosphere, and got a lot of great experience. Still have a lot of great friends in corporate world, but I found piano bars and was like, I think I want to do this. So I definitely have a atypical route into the music business.
I love it. I think it's great. Well, and I mean, the whole math, music thing, math brain, music brain thing is not a rare thing to find. I'm
sorry to interrupt, but I definitely think that my math skills and ability, pattern recognition, all of the things that really helped me in my math scores growing up was attributed mostly to my classical piano training that I started at the age of 6 years old. So I definitely see the correlation, and I always encourage parents to get their kids into music.
For sure. Yeah. 6 years old, man, that's wow. That's impressive. How long did it take before you enjoyed playing? I'm assuming at 6, it wasn't you that said, I want to spend all my time playing classical piano. It was probably driven by, at some level by your parents. Is that right?
Yeah, my mom's still the church piano player. I did ask for lessons, but I don't know that, I remember my teacher I was of course taking private lessons, and she would have recitals in each semester. So in the fall and the spring. And so I had camaraderie with some of my peers, and I would play duets. I think my first, I'd say, fond memories were when we would play those song and pieces with my friend who would sit on the bench with me, and I'd be on the left side and she'd be on the right. So there was some fun things going on with peers there. But it was when I heard Bumble Boogie. It's like this piece that's kind of got a boogie left-hand bass.
Yeah.
That's when I heard that song played by maybe a senior in high school, an older girl. I was like, that's what I want to do. Which I always tell the story. It's Jerry Lee Lewis inspired. It's that boogie woogie piano that I heard that I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that would be when I really knew I wanted to stick with it, because it was not always easy.
Sure. It never, the beginning especially is not that it gets easier, but I think we all learn the value of putting the time in, right? Like, but you can't know that when you start. I mean, you can have somebody explain it to you, but it doesn't, that's irrelevant, right? You have to first put the time in and then realize, oh, wait. I can now do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's hard at the start to
my advice to parents or anyone who has kids that they're trying to, I always get people saying, I wish I had taken lessons, or I wish I had stuck with it. And having an example that's just a little bit in front of maybe your children to see where they can go and where they can be inspiration to really stick with it, so they know that it's just right over the hill to get to that next step. That was helpful for me with my lady that taught me.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And okay, well, we've talked about Susan's formational years in music. Yeah. Cliff, where did music begin for you?
So I was born in 1991, and that's where it began, I think. But like her story and what y'all are talking about, completely opposite. I have enjoyed it ever since I first could recognize music. I've always really enjoyed, and like that desire to be able to just picking out notes. Like I think my dad is a guitarist and singer and songwriter, and I think when my mom was pregnant with me, maybe going to bars or whatever wherever my dad was playing at the time. I don't know. I think somehow music found its way into me just from the day I was born. Yeah. And it's like when they say, put headphones and play Bach. Well, mine was put headphones on and play rock. That's what my dad was doing. And so I grew up, I think, with that kind of mindset of just my exploratory days, even as a baby. Like my grandmother told me, when I first saw a piano, I would just press one key at a time. I never banged on a piano or anything like that. I always treated instruments very delicately and like respectfully. And so I think the first time I was probably, not that I remember this, but that first time that I was able to hear something on the radio and like associate the note or key of that song is like, it just started from there. And I'm like, oh, I can play the same note that's doing, or I can play the same melody that's doing. So recognizing that from a young age, wow. It's just kind of exploded from there. And I've always enjoyed it.
Did you ever learn to read music? Like, can you read now or?
No, I can read very slowly. I don't,
sure.
I don't understand. Like, she's got that math brain of, I won't say I'm not good at math. I'm fairly good at math, but I was never like an academic scholar like her. So,
sure.
I didn't go to college for music or math or any sort of studies. I moved to Nashville, which we can talk about later. But yeah, no, I never really learned to read music. I just thought it was really slow and pointless when I could just be like, well, just play it for me.
Tell
and I'll
them
play
the story about the band director.
Oh yeah. So like in school, growing up in high school, I played, what is it? The
marimba?
Vibraphone or maybe marimba,
yeah.
The wood blocks and xylophone and snare. So my teacher, I told my teacher I can't read music, and he was like, well, I'll show you how. And, well, I never learned to read music. I would just, because he would play everything for the students, for the class before he was like, this is how it goes. And if and so I would just listen to what he played and play that. And so at the end of the school semester, he was like, I knew you could read music. And I was like, I have not read a single sheet of music this whole year. And I was like, I just listened to what you were playing and played that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people have that, like where all our brains work differently. And, some people have that aptitude of just like you hear it once and you're ready to go.
Yeah, his pattern recognition with his ear is just incredible. He can just hear something and immediately just play it back. It takes me a minute. I didn't even think I could play by ear until I was in my 20s and discovered the piano bar world. And I'm like, oh, there, I hear the intervals. But there again, it was math to me. It's like I hear the 4, the 5, the 6, and that was it. It all translated back to numbers for me versus just, I don't know, pattern recognition for you is different, I guess.
And in music theory, I've dived into the music theory probably in the last 7 to 10 years, and taking it a lot more seriously because I understand it a lot better now. Because at first I would meet people from that would go to Berkeley or go to Belmont out in Belmont out when I lived in Tennessee, and they were like, what are you playing there? That sounds awesome. What chord is that? And I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And there were complex chords and melodies and stuff, but I had no idea what they were. And I was like, it kind of sucks that I don't know what I'm playing. So I should learn this. So I started, learning more music theory. And I wouldn't say I know what I'm doing on paper, like reading music wise, but I know what I'm playing now, at least.
Sure.
I know the theory behind why it is and why it works, and can use that to my advantage if I need to.
I was going to say, I think there is value that can be extracted and leveraged from both, right? Understanding the theory and knowing where you can go next based on box rules, right? And then also knowing where you can go next because your fingers or your head or your heart knows like what sounds good to you, to just playing, trusting your ear. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it really helped that I did have that good ear as a foundation, but I do wish I would have learned music theory the way I did now when I was growing up. But nobody, I did take lessons on one instrument for a few years, which was violin. I took fiddle lessons for 3 years, but and some of those were like tabs, for fiddle.
Yeah.
Just, open 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. I never did tabs on guitar. I could always find my way on guitar pretty easily. Fiddle was a little bit more complicated, but it just, I never had a teacher that did music theory. They just were kind of like me. They're good at by ear and just a good teacher to get me a foundation started. But if I had a great music theory teacher, maybe I would have been more interested in that.
It's hard though. I'm a drummer. So I joke, of course, that I hang out with musicians. But years and years ago, my daughter and I actually started taking guitar lessons together. And I started on piano. That was my first instrument. And I can't sight read for piano by any stretch of the imagination, but I understand how to read on piano, and I can sight read on drums. That's a skill that I've had for a very long time. And when I started taking guitar lessons, he was working with tab, but I knew that he could read, and I knew that was a skill he had. And so I said, all right, this is driving me crazy because I can look at a piano and know what each note is. I'm looking at a fretboard and I have no idea what notes I'm playing. I said, this is driving me crazy. So you got to teach me how to read. And he says, you don't want to do that. And I said, no, I do. He's like, no, you really don't. It's like reading for 6 pianos simultaneously, and the same note exists in 4 different places. He's like, you're not going to enjoy this. I said, yeah, but also I'm not enjoying what we're currently doing because I'm distracted by trying to figure out what I'm doing instead of just playing. He's like, okay. He's like, but just remember, you chose this. I'm like, yeah, eyes wide. Okay, of course. And so we did for about 3 months. We did everything on the staff. And finally, I got to a point where I started to be able to see where the notes were and all that. And then I said, okay, we're moving very slowly here. He's like, well, yeah, this sucks. And I said, yeah, I know. So let's go back to tab now. I said, I'm good. I have enough of a picture of this. I'm over it now. He's like,
cool.
Great.
That's
What's
cool that you did that. It's cool that you did that just to kind of see how it worked. I mean, I think that, just to put the 2 and 2 together there.
I needed it for me. It was, yeah.
Well, and when people or kids, adults, whatever, that I've, tried teaching guitar to, especially on a very basic level, I never tried to overwhelm them with what they're playing and like the notes. And I always started with, what song would you like to play? What do you want to do this for? And let's start there. And, after they kind of start, because you want that desire to be there. If you immediately hit them with all this work and, it's a lot of mumbo jumbo.
It's like a crazy language.
Yeah. So
you don't even ever want to speak. I mean,
well, and I mean, you have to, I think what you're saying, Cliff, is what we were saying earlier, that you have to have the joy. There needs to be something that drives you to want to spend more time with the instrument.
Right, because that high that you get, those endorphins that you get when you're like, oh, I'm starting to hear the melody that I'm playing for the song that I want to hear. Like I'm starting to do that already. And if you can just get them to do that first, then that kind of creates that spark. And then once they start getting better at just the muscle memory, the mechanics of it, then you start telling them what they're doing,
why they're doing what they're doing,
why they're doing it, why it works, why does that melody sound good, that whole spiel. And so that's kind of where I was with it, because my dad, he never taught me anything except for, I'd say that he did teach me, but he did not teach me like in a systematic way. I would just be like, Dad, how do you play this guitar lick, or how do you play that intro, or, and he would just show me, and I'd pick it out, and I'm like, that's all I needed to know to start. And then I would find myself learning all the rest there, because just getting that one little part got me excited enough to keep going and keep learning. And because those little things that you start learning will inform the rest of what you need to learn.
Yes.
So it's those little tidbits of information. You're like, oh, if I can do that here, I can
copy this or do a related thing over there. Yeah, for sure.
Because if my dad probably tried to, I was so ADD, I'm still very ADHD, and it was really bad when I was a kid. So he would have never been able to like sit me down and teach me guitar like that.
Sure.
So I'm glad that he never did.
Yeah.
So, but it worked for me.
That's great. No, it makes perfect sense. And are you? I'm going to take us on maybe a little tangent here. Not that we're not already on one, but it's fine. When it comes to like breaking down vocal harmonies and that sort of thing, are you, Cliff? Are you just recognizing those patterns? And Susan, how do you do that kind of thing?
Yeah. So, before we got together, I never really sang lead. I only sang harmony. And, that obviously, I think the guitar helped me inform that, because I would know, like, when you're doing double stops on a guitar, I know that you're either doing like a 1-5 or a 3. It might be a third interval, a fourth interval. So not that I knew, oh, this is a third interval, this is a fourth interval, but I knew how they sounded, and I knew how those go together in a relationship to each other. So I would be able to pick out harmony, and sing the note that I'm playing. I would be able to pick out harmonies pretty well. And I would always sing harmony with people, and could, easily pick out a minor harmony or a major harmony or those kind of things. And also being in Mountain View, Arkansas, in spring or summer, we would go there, and those bluegrass harmonies, those are really intricate and pretty complex in some ways. So just hearing that and being able to try to replicate that with my voice or guitar or instrument was a really good foundation for me.
All right, so I gotta tug on this thread, because it's one thing to sing harmonies by ear when it's just two people singing. But as soon, and I'm definitely speaking from my own experience here, because when it comes to harmony, I'm a lot like you, Cliff, where I learned by doing and by hearing and by blending. And I think blend is arguably more important than even getting the exact harmony line or melody line right, because if the blend's not there, it doesn't. If it sounds good, it's good. However, that whole school of thought for me tends to fall apart very, very quickly when you add a third voice or a fourth voice. So how do you approach it when that's the case?
Well, I mean, for us, for me on my harmonies, I'm picking out typically a third above.
Sure.
My ear just pops into the third above, which works well with a male vocal. But once I hear the melody the harmony to the melody, I can memorize that and then just make sure I'm listening to myself to make sure I'm on pitch within the scale. And so that's my best approach. I don't really think mathematically about that. That's just me singing with my ear and making sure I'm stacking it correctly. But Cliff can hear all of the harmonies.
Well, and funny enough, with her music or mathematic background, I don't have a mathematic background, but I think about it a lot more mathematically.
That's interesting.
Because finding harmonies to me, I mean, first of all, you know what scale you're in. Like with going back to bluegrass, a lot of bluegrass music and rock music,
it's got a 7 in there,
uses
right?
the 7 or the Mixolydian scale. So instead of do re mi fa sol la ti, it's do re mi fa sol la ti da di da da da, that flat 7. And I don't think of harmonies just as a third interval or fourth interval. I think of what chord can you play over this scale? And I know those intervals and I know where they go. So if I want to do a minor harmony, well, I know that's a minor third or a minor sixth,
but that's
or
where his ear comes in so
those
great.
intervals. I can just picture a chord. If I want to play a diminished chord, then I can sing a diminished chord. If you can play it, you should be, as a singer, if you can play it, you can sing it. So then you just think of what chord you want
in his
to have,
world.
No, I
guess a lot more mathematical, which is really weird because I don't have that background at all, and she does. So I'm like, why don't you think of it that way?
I learned how to sing intervals. I did go to music school for a hot minute, and I had a sight singing lab on the other side of campus at 8 a.m. 3 days a week, and it sucked. Especially in the winter here. I went to the University of Connecticut and it was cold walking across. So I hated being there, and singing at 8 a.m. is not the right time of day. But
not if you're a musician.
Not if you're a musician. Yeah. If I was out playing gigs the night before or whatever. However, those intervals are burned into my memory from just doing that, because it had to be, because I was half asleep. I was, and so you start to, I think you started to say, Cliff, you're like, well, you just see the chord. It's like, yeah, that's what you have to be able to envision it in order to do it that way. There are other ways to do it that don't require envisioning it. And you say that, if you can play it, you should be able to see it and sing it. Well, for you, yes. I think you see it very differently, Susan. Is that right?
Well, when he talks about the bluegrass harmonies, I see the numbers on a piano, and I know what we're doing. I see it in a pattern in front of me, and then I know mostly what it should sound like. But I might not just stab it right from the beginning. I might have to train my ear to get to that 7, that flat 7, or whatever, And some of that is just we don't sing. I don't know if I ever sing a lot of bluegrass harmonies every once in a while in our songs.
High
sure.
and dry.
My natural stack is a 3/5 over the 1 or whatever, so I can find the third real easy. But then I get pitchy whenever I'm trying to find things that are a little left to center, so then I have to train my ear, and then I'm good.
Yeah, those sixth harmonies are they're some of the best ones, but they're tricky to find. Yeah.
Well, and I think one thing that helped me is I would do, and I listened to a lot of different types of music growing up, not just bluegrass or rock or what I
sure
everything. And though I wasn't I hadn't found my voice as a lead singer by any means at that point in my life, really not until 10 years ago or something, but maybe a little bit longer.
I made him start singing. I was like, I can't do all this by myself.
But I was able to connect, like bebop kind of scatting while you're playing. Like if I know if I'm going 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, that kind of stuff like is easy to me to like play and sing no matter. And that's the relationship. Obviously you've got to know your instrument first, but to be able to do that. But on guitar, I could like go anywhere randomly and know where I'm going with my fingers.
He can sing over everything he's about to play. It's
that kind of thing without really knowing where I'm going yet. I do. I'm informed somehow, even though your
ear knows where your fingers are about to play.
Right. So I can sing that. And I think she probably never did that doing classical music because that was very
there wasn't much ear
structured.
Training in my I took the Suzuki method and it wasn't or no, I'm sorry, the Alfred. Yep. Suzuki does have ear training, but Alfred didn't. So I never really got that.
So
interesting.
Being able to like on piano, play and sing what you're playing wherever you're going.
I can match it once I play it, but going and playing it, that's
but not you don't know that you know what it sounds like before you play it. You might actually know what it sounds like, but like
a good guess, but not on the fly. And he'll just sing over a whole solo on stage live. He's just singing the notes while he's doing it. I'm like, that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty cool. It's really interesting. Thank you for taking this tangent with me. I know that a lot of our listeners here just harmonies and I think harmonies are one of those things that can level up your band. I mean, not just being able to sing is one thing, and that's super important. But then being able to sing with each other and getting those harmony stacks happening, that can really be a differentiator. And I know we didn't get into the mechanics of any of it really, but I think we did. Like to me, this conversation, this little thread here that we did was valuable because it shows that there's different ways of doing things, but correct me if I'm misapplying what I heard from you both, but the trick really is repetition. You've got to get your reps in and just do it and do it and do it.
Yeah. And then also vocally listening to yourself. And the best way I've grown vocally, well, number one is getting a vocal coach, but two is being in the studio. If you primarily perform live, you may not realize that you're pitchy until you go into a studio and you're under a microscope and they start tuning you. If you ever get tuned, you're going to go, oh no. And you visually see them and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was that flat or that sharp. And then you go, oh, wait. And it was a light bulb moment for me to go, I need to listen to myself. I'm not just singing into the abyss. I need to actually go, does this sound good? And match and so I had a mental shift when I got in the studio, which helped me vocally live.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I can definitely, and you don't have to be in the studio with someone else. You can record yourself with, all the stuff that we have today.
Or even voice memos on your phone. I mean, anything is helpful.
Well, but if you do it in a DAW where you have where the DAW has a pitch correction plug-in or whatever, then you get that really honest moment where you get to see, that's me.
Not so much. Okay.
Yeah. But then that's when you get to learn. Like that's the exciting time.
You can learn. That's the cool part. Like
I was not a good singer when I started. I really wasn't. I didn't have good tone. I didn't have good technique. I didn't really have good pitch. I knew where I was trying to get to. I did have a good ear after I would know where I was sharp or flat. I would, some people don't know that they're sharp or flat, and that's not good, and you can still train your ear. You can train that.
That's what I'm saying. I did. So, I was able to do that. Yeah.
No, you can definitely train. Yeah. Yeah. No, but you're right. Some people don't know. I remember a band that I played in, which will not be named, where we had a couple of different people who would sing lead. And there were a couple of us that would occasionally sing lead, but were sort of primarily on harmonies because we had that was more in our wheelhouse. And it was after a couple of years that I wound up chatting with the other guy that was kind of doing most of the harmonies with me. And I'm like, I think you figured this out too, because I hear you doing it. But when that person sings, we all sing 10 cents sharp just so that we can match him. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, that's been happening since the beginning. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. We've never spoken about it before and maybe should never speak about it again. Like, well, because you don't want to get in somebody's head either, unless they want to be fixed, like unless they want to fix it. Then it's great.
Hard to help someone like that, because it's such a confidence issue when they hear such a flaw that they might have. So, and, you know, I just want to make a quick point, because I hate when people say they can't do something, you know, but a lot of people you'll hear and be like, oh, I'm tone deaf, I can't do that. I hear that a lot. And I'm like, people that are actually scientifically tone deaf are very uncommon. Like,
yes,
you just haven't put in the work to recognize what you're hearing and how to do it, and put that it's a muscle memory. And some people are born with a more natural gift. I was more musically gifted than I was not vocally gifted from the get-go. I still have tapes when I was 9 years old trying to sing, and you'd be like, that boy is never going to be a singer, you know? And but you can train yourself, but you have to put in the work. If I hadn't put in the work, I still wouldn't be a good singer, but I did. So people are not tone deaf. There are very few people that actually are. So it's like, you know, there are some people that don't have the ability to picture something in their mind, you know?
Yeah.
I forget what it's called right now, but that's a real thing, but very few people have that. It's kind of the same with being actually tone deaf, not being able to delineate one pitch from another pitch.
So they should at least try. If they think they're tone deaf, it's probably somebody in their youth that said you can't sing or you don't sound good. Like I had, you know, when I first started, my brother's like, you can't sing, and I had a confidence issue for a long time. I was scared to sing till I was in my 20s, and was like, I have to do this because I want to do this job. Like I see how much fun that is.
It's the same as calling a kid dumb. Well, then they might just grow up dumb, you know?
Yeah, those people in our lives become hypnotists essentially, and teaching us something that is not true, but but you believe it, and I mean it. Like that's the thing that that the flip side of what we're talking about here. You know, we said sit down with your DAW, learn where you are. Be aware that you will be learning things that now are going to give, you know, ignorance can be blissful, right? Yeah. And ignorance can give you confidence. And there is value, immense value in having confidence when you are on stage playing. If you are not confident in what you're about to do, everyone in the room is going to know. And that's bad. Yeah. So be careful with this.
Yeah, I say if you can blend the two and surround yourself with people who want to help you, genuinely want to help you, you can. And then you can blend the two, and then you can grow from there.
And that's always been like something that the stigma in music of parents, especially in the 80s when no one was really making money, you know, doing gigs, which this not really that it's changed much, but you know, putting something in a kid's head that is especially amazingly talented at something, saying, well, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to make money doing that. Go get a job.
Ashley McBride wrote a song about it.
We've talked to someone recently that was like, oh my God, my kid is incredibly talented. Going on and on about her. And they're like, well, what does she do with it? She doesn't really do that stuff anymore. It's like, what?
Why?
Let her do that? And she's like, nah, she's going on to do, you know, she's got a job, going to college, getting her degree. And I'm like, well, you know, at least minor in something, you know, but you know, that some people don't have that.
Life like I did.
Yeah. Some people don't have that encouragement that you can make a living doing music. You just got to put the work into it, just like any other job.
And you have to be willing to make the I'll call them lifestyle changes. Some people might call them sacrifices, but the adaptations to your lifestyle, you're going to be working at night more than you are in the day for most music careers. Again, not all, right? You're going to be doing more travel than you might otherwise do for many music careers. Again, not all, right? Like, you know, there's those things. It's, you know, if you want to work a 9-to-5 job and have that lifestyle, chances are less of an opportunity to do that with a music career than something else, but you know, but not impossible.
Not impossible. And I think I discovered a way into the music business that was lucrative from the get-go with the piano bar structure, and so that was very eye-opening for me, which I would say is not the typical route into music. And so then my entrepreneurial spirit kind of took the whole, this is a new lifestyle change, but I'm going to put the business savvy behind it as well. So I blended the two to find success.
So yeah, tell me. I've never. I am a piano player. I guess I've already admitted that, so I'll stick with it. But I'm not a very good one. And so I've certainly never done the piano bar thing. I'm curious. That's a different kind of gig than yep. So I'd love to hear you talk about like what that was like to get into, and then how you made that a career.
Sure. Well, I will say, whenever I was working in corporate world, I would go downtown and find that we had 2 piano bars in downtown Little Rock at the time, but the one that still remains, where Cliff and I actually met on stage in 2016. You had that right. I started a little late 2003, 2004 timeframe is when I discovered the piano bar concept. And I walked in, and I always enjoyed performing piano. I love to perform, and, but I never did singing and playing until I saw the piano bar concept. I was like, I really want to learn to do this, And then I talked to one of the piano players, and he took me over to the side, and he showed me how the science of the show is what I call it. And it's just like this journey that you take the crowd on using genres, different tempos, a lot of high energy music, sing along commands, songs that people know and love from their formative years, the top 40, any genre, any decade. Like, that's the name of the game, taking requests and doing all that. But there's an actual skill set of learning how to do the sing along concept. And so when they told me what was going on behind the scenes, I was like, oh, this is incredible. It was magical to me. And so I thought, well, I'm going to sing and play. And I learned like some slow Sarah McLachlan song and got up on stage and sang it, which was the wrong one. But my friends were like, woo! And there weren't any girls in the business in Little Rock at the time. So I just started like woodshedding, learning songs, how to sing and play. When I discovered that, I would go home at night, I would learn them. I would play like 5 nights a week and still have my corporate job. And then eventually I went to corporate world, and I said, hey, I want to chase my passion. And you may think I'm crazy. And they were like, no, we saw this coming.
That's awesome. I love that.
But no, and I found the piano bar world. And when I said it was lucrative, I mean, the pay was great. You'd make, $200 to $300, maybe $400 on a weekday, just going down, and you just plug a microphone in and get paid your base pay, and then you make the tips in a good club. If you do it right, you're making good tips. And so you split that, and I was like, wow, this is turning out to be something cool. And then I realized that I could, maybe do music. At that time, I felt like a round peg in a square hole in corporate world. I was like, I just want to be free and go, try this stuff. So much to my dad's dismay, I was giving up corporate world to go play in quote unquote honky tonks. And so now my dad's the first one to come to the honky tonk and dance. He loves, in his retirement years, he loves to dance. So
amazing.
But yeah, no. So the piano bar world was an interesting, unique niche in the music industry that I discovered because of just proximity to that club. And then it took me on. I moved to LA, lived in Hollywood, performed in Claremont, out in the Inland Empire. I moved to Vegas, worked in Vegas for a couple of years, 5 to 6 nights playing in all the piano bars on the Strip. Then I found piano bars internationally and have done my own show, just me singing, not the dueling piano concept that I initially learned. And so I've just learned all of this music. And then I wanted to start exploring songwriting, and I released an album in Nashville. So I've blended cover shows for a living, but also acquired this great skill set as being an entertainer, because I know how to interact with the crowd and lead a crowd on a journey. And that's really something that's influenced our next album and how we write. And it's just really coming together for us recently, I'd say, with our original project.
That it's really interesting that how much foundation this piano bar strategy, this piano bar concept is like continuing to fuel what you do, even if you're not really doing that specific thing anymore. I mean, you said, top 40, any genre, any decade, but you keep talking about taking the crowd on this journey. And I think that's a lesson that transcends. I mean, it is live art, is you are taking a crowd on a journey, right? Like that's the point. So how do you structure a night? As detailed as you want to get, but we can stay at 10,000 feet if you want.
Well, I mean, I could talk on this for hours. So you got the girl. So, I mean, for me, there is your job when you walk into a venue, assuming it's a sing-along where you're supposed to perform and get the crowd's attention. Now, if you're playing in a steakhouse and you're supposed to be background ambient, that you did not understand the assignment. If you're
totally different. Sure.
Caroline, you're going to screw up the job. However, if you're in a place where you're there to entertain and raise the elevation of the room and be a central party maker, I guess you could say, then then there is a way to do that. And so I was taught that you just happen to know how to play the piano. The concept is we're all in a big living room. There's a piano in the corner. You happen to know how to sing and play piano, and you're going to take everybody on a sing-along journey. And what that means is the crowd is the star. You aren't. Now there's moments where you can be the star and show off and be, flashy. But it's like sometimes I see artists and singers and performers get up and it's like there's this invisible wall between them and the crowd. And some of that self-inflicted, some of that they just never learned the skill set to, or maybe that's a choice. But for me, I want to connect with people, whether that's, a lot of that means I'm talking to the crowd. There's an element of being an MC or like a DJ, you're storytelling, but also just taking from how you give them permission to have fun from the beginning, say who we are, and we're going to have some fun tonight. We're about to play this. It's an all request show. So how you set your show up from the beginning, playing music that is recognizable, that the energy is taking them into a place where you're going to continue the party. And then you take them on a journey. So maybe it's variety. It's a whole skill set of, do you play a different genre next, or do you play something that's a different groove, maybe a different decade? And you're looking and reading your crowd to know what years were they in their formative years. If you've got an older crowd, then you're going to probably lean towards like the oldies. You can get away with some newer stuff, or if you've got a younger crowd, they're going to still know the oldies, but it's almost like playing a video game. And you're like, I've got all these tools in my tool belt, and this is the crowd I have tonight. So what can I throw at them? And you know what typically works. So you do that. Then if you're taking requests, then you have to finagle those in there so you don't kill the room if you've got like 4 short ballads or something.
Mm-hmm.
Were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say one thing, going back to like informing anybody's, music career, we use that same concept in our original shows to apply all of those factors that work. So if you're doing an original show, not at all a piano bar show, but you can use those factors of taking them on that journey of, okay, we're going to hit them with this high energy, like kind of mid energy song at first, and then bring it up. And then, you've got those peaks and valleys. You still want to bring it down.
I have a graph for this.
Yeah. There are heat maps and graphs and all these things that
she's created, yes.
But also just, changing it up. We do different instrumentation. So pulling out a different instrument keeps that variety and excitement of something different. And the fact that we are a duo, so it's a male voice and a female voice, switching off that keeps a bit of not so much of the same all the time. Or if you have a band where another member sings a little bit, if he sings really well on some song, change it up a little bit, let another person sing, and that gives it that different ear, fatigue that someone might get uninterested in something. Then you hit them with something different. Because
in the piano bar world, it's a 6-hour nonstop show, and if you're going to sit there and watch somebody for 6 hours, it better be a variety, or you're going to lose them. So you do that with how, you can bring people down, feature people, there's a little comedy in there. But it's really just about never letting them know what's going to happen next. They're like, oh, this is so different. And then really, I would say I'm a people pleaser. And that's where it comes out with the show. Is like, I just want everybody to I'm addicted to watching people have fun. And I've got a skill set that I can use to take them on a fun night, but it's more about them than it is me. And that's where we, with our next album, we're writing for packing a dance floor.
Just to clarify, in a piano bar, it's not just one person doing it for 6 hours straight. No. They've got, if you don't know, I'm just, for anybody that doesn't know how a piano bar works, typically it's a team of 3 to 4 players, and they rotate either every half hour or hour, so
got it.
It's a 6-hour nonstop show, and that's how they keep that excitement going, because there are teams that are getting up. And,
we do a 4-hour nonstop show at our casino residency. So, but that came out of my desire to never want to stop the music and just keep the party going.
And but that comes from your piano bar days. I mean,
there are a lot. One of the biggest compliments and things that we get people saying is, y'all just never stop. Y'all just y'all know how to keep the party going. And we know when the party, needs to die down a little bit and then bring it back up. But we don't want to stop, because we want those people having fun, and we get, more tips in the tip jar, and you keep people in the bars happy because you keep people drinking, and that's really one of our main things.
Where they want you to stop to go open the concession stand, and they need to sell more food.
That's like a theater style show.
Then that is the point. Yeah.
Oh, but no, I've done plenty of shows at theaters where it's like, this should be, maybe 110 minutes straight through. And they're like, right, but at 50 minutes, you're going to stop because we need people to leave the theater and go to the bar and come back
Right.
and buy popcorn or whatever. Yeah. Usually drinks. Yeah. But
You know, we hear from other people all the time. They're like, oh, we went and saw this one band and that they were a really great band, but they took a break every 45 minutes. And it's
Which
like,
I
wow,
feel like
Mm-hmm.
if you can, you have to also take care of your health. And if
Yes.
you need a break, you
for
need a
sure.
break. So, there's differing opinions on that, but I don't like to stop. I'm just having fun.
Well, I personally know some bands that are like, no, 45 minutes, it's break time. It's like, why? Just because you want to.
Yeah. No,
Hey.
I did a gig with the cover band that I'm in. I play in an original band and a cover band, and we played a gig the other night, and it was a 3-hour gig, and it was our first time at this venue, and for whatever reason, I just didn't pay attention because I don't. It's not my job to put together the set list in this band or anything, so I just was like, sure, whatever. And it didn't dawn on me that it was a 3-hour, like, start to finish night, 8 to 11 or something. And our singer who put together the sets put 3 sets together, and it was like, as soon as we took the first break, it was like, at best this should be a 2-set night. Like oh man, we made a mistake. Mm-hmm. It was fine. I mean, it was fine, but sure. I put a little note in my phone. It was like, and I maybe this episode will come out before we have rehearsal. I don't know. They might. They might hear about this before they hear it from me. But like, there's a note in my phone that says next time we play there or anywhere that's a 3-hour night, it should be a maximum of 2 sets. And I think the first set should be longer than the second. I always, because you're going to lose some people as the night wears on anyway. Yeah. Find that sweet spot.
I totally agree.
Wait till everybody's got a full drink. Then you take your break and you hit back up before they have a chance to leave. So, yeah.
Always with telling other musicians, and just how I've always run my career is like, you got a contract typically, and some contracts do say how, like at our casino, it has 4 hours and we get 2 20-minute breaks.
There you go.
The contract says that, and that's pretty responsible. But I never, unless they are like, and I always make sure I ask the venue, are you okay if we go with no break, or if we wiggle around based on the energy of the room? And then you get that permission, and then you use your judgment. But I definitely agree. And I hate taking breaks, and I feel like I'm losing them, So I'm like over there looking at my clock, and I'm in my head. I can't even enjoy my break, And then I'm trying to chase down band members to make sure they're on point, and I'm like, we should have just played the whole time.
Well, and if you have break music, having really good break music that is for a reason, that's going to accomplish something that you're not able to do on stage, like
dead air.
When we do our cover shows, we can spoof rap songs and hip hop songs, and we do several of them, full hip hop songs or whatever. But sometimes they're asking for stuff that we wouldn't normally play. But then we're like, well, we know that we are going to take a break. So then we're gonna make sure we play that for them, or set up a set list where we know they're gonna keep dancing and having a good time for when we get back. Yeah. Don't. Make sure it's loud enough. Make sure it's not too loud, obviously.
Yeah.
But it does need to match.
The energy needs to match
the
what
energy.
You left, and not like drop them off into no man, and then they start looking at their watches going, oh, the babysitter or
and
whatever.
It's honestly a fine balance on that volume for break music, because you really don't want it the same volume as you want to give people a break on their ears, maybe be able to talk amongst themselves at a table.
But they need to still feel party vibes.
The partiers that want to keep dancing need to feel that energy.
You just gave me an idea that I'm going to share here, even though it's definitely not fully formed. If you've got a front of house engineer that you work with like regularly, or someone managing your show, you could do this from the stage, but it'd be way easier for somebody not on stage to do this. Yeah. If you know you're going to take a break, if people are requesting things, if you know that it's a song you're not going to play for whatever reason, right? You might not know it. You might not want to play it, whatever. Make sure you add that as the first song for that upcoming break. So you stop, and now suddenly, boom, there's the request. So now you've got at least one table of people that's like hooked right in.
Right.
And right. And you can surprise them with that. But if you can manage the show, That could be, yeah, I got to think about
I'd say
this.
as long as it's not a complete crowd killer or like some
Right.
super abstract song that's like,
or maybe you throw it in on the third song instead of the first one. Out of the first.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, but just something like clocking that and then delivering it either from the stage if you are going to do it, or if not, then all right. Yeah, there's all kinds of things. I love this.
On the arc and the story in the journey. I see it visually. I mean, it happens naturally for me on stage.
Sure.
Like you and I, like I'll say this. We have hand motions too, and like this means after we're going to do a slower song. Or or if I'm
I didn't give you this note before we recorded. Most of the audience is listening and not watching the video. So
sure.
Not your fault. It was as we started the show. I'm like, the one thing I didn't tell him. So that's on me.
Know that I'm on radio every week, so I should have thought of that. But
yeah, she's just like moving her hand in a circle and then bringing her palm down to show the next song is going to be that.
Signaling to Cliff, I'm doing around and around with my pointer finger, and then I go round and around, and then I kind of push my hand down toward the ground like we're going to go slow after. So after this song, round and round, and then I push my hand down slow to say, I need you to do a slow song. So he and I know that's what we should do, and he's like, yeah, I agree, or yeah, you're right, I'll do that because I'm the woman, I'm always right, and so we'll have these hand motions because the other thing I want to talk about, part of the journey, is that too much dead air is the killer of your show. Even if you're about to do a slow song, they don't need to, there's too much dead air in between when you will lose the momentum of the show.
Yes.
It needs to be purposeful. So like when he's grabbing another instrument, like he's going from guitar to fiddle, then I'm talking to the crowd. I'm promoting us or the venue, or I'm saying I've got some things I'll rattle off that I naturally go to kind of have some purposeful talking while he's getting ready for that song. And then we hit and go.
I like that. Always make sure. I think one way to interpret that lesson is, the moment a song ends, you're either starting the next song or someone is engaging the crowd with something, talking with them, playing something, a thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, if you think about radio DJs or even just a DJ, the DJs don't stop the song and wait and then pick the next one and you have a break in between. They blend everything. And what is that? Why is that? They want to keep the party going. If they let people stop, then their body innately feels the break between, and there's no journey. You've lost it. You got to get them back. So you're blending everything, just like bam. They love that. Oh, especially if you want to keep the dance floor packed, you better hit them right up, ready to go. Otherwise they will wander off.
They will wander off every time. Every time. Oh man, I love this. I love that I always say everybody's nerdy about something, and it's my job to find it. And I love that you're nerdy about like the flow of the set list and like super nerdy about it. Like this is yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just saying I'm so nerdy that I created an entire academy to teach the whole entertainer's formula. Like that's something that like I also, like I said on our sophomore album, like when you turn our album on, that we're going to have about 12 songs. It's going to take them on a journey. Like we could play the album from start to finish and put on the show that we would want to put on with the crowd that's ready to go. That's the pacing of the actual album is going to match what we do. What I feel like is one of our biggest strengths.
So you've got this Entertainers Academy, and then the week that this comes out, assuming it comes out when I'm planning to put it out, is you've got your 5-day gig amplifier challenge. Is that part of the Entertainers Academy, or is this a separate thing? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I do a free challenge, so anybody can join. If you go to gigamplifierchallenge.com, you can sign up. And then when we do it live, you can join each day for free. There's a VIP level that you can level up to and get the replays and like get to have an extra hour to, talk back and forth with us. So there is a paid level, but I like to do it for free because, I think people kind of just need to acclimate to what it is that we're teaching. But we teach how to not only find the gigs, but I start with how to do the show. Like if your product is your show, you need to get the product right before you start selling it. So we do everything from what is your product? Here's the songs. I give them the songs. Here's a general overview of how you need to flow. I'll like literally spoon feed that. So there's work on their part they're going to need to do to learn the songs. But then from there, like how to identify the venues in their local market, how to put together their press kit. And then even we go into equipment that they'll need. And we really lean into more of a solo or duo, maybe a trio configuration. Full bands could get something out of it. But I feel like for us, it's a great business model to have less members and go out and you can do corporate gigs for thousands of dollars, just like in a 2-person setup. So there's everything from your local bar that might pay in the hundreds up to the $1,000.
And I will say, if you are a full band, I think a lot of full bands might not think they'll get a lot out of it, but I think you can take with the knowledge of the piano bar industry and how we apply it to our shows.
Yeah.
You might be struggling in your industry of other cover bands that are doing really well. You take all of the,
Pacing.
knowledge and pacing and the interaction, the crowd, the purposeful talking in between, all of that, and you could elevate your cover show or your original show, higher than those that are around you in your area, and, level up your whole band. So I think it's still really important information for anybody to know. But we do, like you said, we do try to, if you're making a living, there are a lot of solo and duo performers that could really level up and make more money than you would in a band. Obviously, you have to pay more band members and, more commitment there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, man. This is I love this. I'm definitely going to check this out because
and I'll send you the login so you don't have to take it. I'll just, send you the resource. You can at will just go through the course and see what we're teaching. And I love to help. I love to teach and share. I've always if I learn something new, I want to share, especially in the craft that I've learned, especially in the dueling pianos world, there's not a lot of people out there teaching the right concept. And so we're involved with the piano bar here, and we're going to be really leaning into our venue here to help be a teaching club, a club that actually teaches. So
I love this. That's amazing.
We're just getting started. It seems like there's going to be a Gib Gab with Cliff and Susan part 2. This conversation generally happens right about this point in the episode, but it's we didn't get to really anything we were going to talk about, and yet I loved every bit of the conversation, so we're going to have to do this again. So we will. Like you said before, it's the natural flow that I think makes some of the best content and the best conversations. So we've enjoyed it. We love nerding out to everything like that.
I can tell. Same. Yeah. And that's what our audience is about here. I always tell people the conversations that would bore your non-musician neighbors at cocktail parties are the things that slay in the green room and work perfectly for Gig Gab. And here we are. Yeah.
We've never done a podcast with this type of audience. So I'm excited that we're able to reach people who might actually have listened this far to hear all this.
Yeah. Talk. Oh, yeah. No, we lost all our neighbors in the conversation about dissecting harmonies. And but that's the hook that ropes all the people like us in. So it's it's great. It serves two purposes.
If you're not a musician, but a music lover and love seeing live music, you'd underestimate how many people do love hearing the science behind the show and how we put on the show and why we do what we do. So
one other thing I wanted to bring up that we hadn't talked about, we've talked a lot about cover music. We've mentioned our original shows, but one of the biggest things I get, and I don't know that, I just personally think that cover music has taught me the masterclass of how to write a song. I've been influenced by all the greats, and I made a lot of money off of cover music. And, of course, the venues pay their ASCAP and BMIs and all that. So, ethically. But I've used that to really grow and do what I love for a living. By proxy, now I've got this skill set as an entertainer, and I've applied all that to my original music. But I get a lot of people, I think that we think we're not artists when we play other people's music. And I could argue this all day because there are plenty of greats that got their start doing cover music and still do play it in their regular. For sure. So I hope to always break that wall and that barrier down, because I think there's nothing more sad to me than somebody who's talented who won't at least give it a try to build an audience, build a fan base based off of these shows, intersect your music. Maybe you pick songs that fit well with your original, so it's not like you're playing rap and you actually are a bluegrass artist, but maybe there's a thing there.
But maybe there is, right? Who knows? Yeah. If you can weave that journey, then the audience will join you on it.
I think the art, just to summarize that, the art is the entertainment. It is an art. We are artists and entertaining artists. Then there's also, are you an artist, singer, songwriter? Are you an artist in that regard? I think there's different levels and a blend there that I hope to enlighten people on, because I feel like I found my calling in life, and I just wanted to shout it from the mountaintop,
I love this. Yeah, entertaining in and of itself, it is an art.
Yeah. It's like a public speaker. That's an art. There's a craft in public speaking.
For sure.
Especially motivational speakers. So there's an arc. There's a whole story arc about that, and how you get them, and where you bring them down, and where you gut punch them, and then you get them here, and then add the comedy, and then all of it is, there's a lot into it that people realize.
No, and I bet there's a ton of people listening that have never really thought about a replicatable pattern that you can apply to every show you play to immediately level up from note one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here it is. And you can do the 5-day gig amplifier challenge to get yourself started. No, I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
And if this is beyond the actual live challenge, please just reach out to us. Anybody can reach out to us. DM us, and we'll send you some resources and help you out.
Where is the right place for people to follow you? I mean, we'll link to the Entertainers Academy and the 5-day gig amplifier challenge, of course. But where else can people find Cliff and Susan? You said is the right thing, right? Yeah.
Cliff and Susan is our official artist name. So if you were to look us up to find our original music, you'd go to Cliff and Susan, and you can find us on all the socials. I'd say DM us on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll see it quicker than TikTok. But we are on TikTok as well. And we're an open book, and just love helping. We've made so many friends, especially in the Arkansas music industry, by being here geographically. But we travel all over. We'll be in Michigan, and we'll be in Traverse City, Michigan this year, Santa Barbara, California, in the Caribbean, down on the island of St. Martin. And we make it over to Nashville quite a bit. So, let's grab coffee or something if we're in your neck of the woods, especially if you're coming through Arkansas. We live in Little Rock, so, that's a good routing city. If you're with your band, hit us up.
Go.
Yeah. Hit us up, right? Grab a bite.
This is amazing. Thank you for taking the time. There is one thing that we say to our audience as much as we can, and we certainly like to say it at the end of every episode. And I could say it. It's 3 words, but if you would do the honors, and you can mix and match it, or you can each say it. Doesn't matter. But I would love that. So I'll leave it to you, and then and we'll say goodbye.
1, 2, 3. Always be performing.
I love it. That sounded awesome. Check out Cliff and Susan, folks. We'll put all the links in the show notes at giggabpodcast.com. Cliff and Susan, thank you so much for coming on the show. What a blast.
We had a blast. Let's do it again.
We will. We'll absolutely do it again. There's so much to talk about, so much to learn. Thanks for listening, folks. Always be performing. See you next time.
Yeah, I can't see.
Amazing.